Hey guys, so it's been a while since we've done a live stream, and I was having to mess with a bunch of this audio and video equipment. Hopefully, you guys can hear me and my father fine. If you don't, or if there's any like audio things that you're seeing, please put it in the chat to let us know, because I can fix it theoretically while the live stream is going on. But I only know if that's going on if you guys tell us that, because I can't really do it on this laptop or on the main computer because I'm listening to our mics and everything. So I can, but please, if the audio is good, let us know. If it's bad, let us know too.
Right, because I can't do anything about it. So if you have a complaint about the audio or the video,
I have to deal with that.
right.
Yeah.
So like I said a few days ago when we gave you this short video that we promoted our live stream with, I explained part of the reason for doing this is because we get so many comments on our videos that, and many of them are redundant, that it might be a better opportunity for people to ask questions. I give feedback. Immediately you can say, no, that's not what I meant. I want something a little bit different. And everybody gets to observe that. So you take advantage of the fact that there is an ongoing question, but then the answer becomes distributed to a wide audience and probably simplifies confusions that may have developed because of the way that I handled the presentation in a video. That's one thing that we're going to be accomplishing tonight. We can go through our recent videos, our past videos, and kind of explain some of the reasoning, the thought processes behind them, some of the funny things that might have happened, and what we learned, and what we might be doing with some of those different topics as we move forward. I can also give you some ideas about some of the projects. We're working on about 3 or 4 right now, and some of them are near completion, and some of them are just sort of, you know, thoughts in our head, and your feedback there would also be very useful. Plus, we can also talk about things that have nothing to do with our video channel. This is an open-ended discussion that allows us to bring up issues that may be in the news. For example, you know, what's SpaceX doing with their rockets, or what's happening with AI, or, you know, medical issues that are general, not sort of, I have a pain or something, doc, can you tell me how to take care of it? But just general technical, medical, scientific, technological, engineering questions. And both of us are not going to have answers to all of the questions, but we may have some insight. And we can discuss this with you, and everybody else can chime in and give their 2 cents. So that's kind of the layout. And to start out, one of the things that's kind of interesting about this particular setup that we have is we did a couple of live streams a couple of years ago, and as I said before, we got preoccupied with other things, even though they seemed to be fairly well received. So it was a bit of dusting off, literally, dusting off some of the equipment, setting it up, and remembering how we use the OBS studio and all these other features. That's what Alex has been working on. What I would like to start with is what are we doing right now in terms of our current projects? Like, where do we stand?
Well, it's good you mentioned that, because someone had a question that probably relates to exactly what we're doing right now.
What is that?
So I can read it to you.
Yeah.
It's not a super chat or anything. So as soon as more people are like piling in, if you want to get your question read, super chat is an easier way to do that. But we're fine with reading other ones too. So this one from James Randolph. Question: air conditioner for heating. We're dying for some data.
That's
so,
actually. Is there more to that? Because
yeah.
I really want to address
We're
that.
dying from for some data using question. Helps streamers pick out actual questions. By the way, I don't know what that means, but
Well, with respect to the air conditioner, the reason that is so ironic is that when we were setting up for the live stream, we noticed that we hadn't been in the warehouse for a couple of days prior to that. And we came in here and it was a particularly hot day outside. And so we came in and it was a particularly hot day inside and couldn't figure out what was going on. So we checked the thermostats, discovered, in fact, that the air conditioner is broken in this warehouse. And so right now it's probably about 30 Celsius, probably around 80 degrees, 85 degrees in here. And so we're pretty warm. So we got plenty of refreshments here. But with respect to the air conditioner video, that is the current project that is taking pretty much 90% of our time right now. And we're trying to get that done as quickly as possible because of the fact that it's hot out. People are going to be interested in it and can benefit from it.
and we're doing something fun at the barn too
Yeah.
that you guys will see in a couple days.
Yeah.
And we might post some short or something to Patreon.
Yeah.
But that was a task and a half up at the barn doing the
prep work.
prep work.
And it involved a bobcat.
Yeah,
So,
I did.
as you can imagine, it wasn't a small-scale operation, but you will be seeing that. We're going to try to see if we can get that out for next Saturday. It's probably going to be tight, but we might be ready close enough that it's either going to be this coming Saturday, a week from today, or definitely by the following Saturday, we'll have that video completed. We pretty much did most of the testing. It works. It works extraordinarily well, and it's just a matter of kind of putting together the individual components. And you can tell that I'm remaining a little bit vague about this because I don't want to give you too much insight into it. But it is a very effective way that anybody can boost the efficiency of their air conditioners. More cooling, less electricity.
But it's sort of an update to the last AC video,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So-
playing off of that.
And everybody used to be commenting before about not getting an update to the previous AC video.
Yeah, and I felt guilty about that because obviously we were doing the laser video with Chris a couple of months ago, and that really ate up a lot of time. And the AC, there's actually two methods that we're looking at for saving money on cooling. One of them involves modifying the air conditioner, and the other is a way of modifying the timing of the use of an air conditioner. One of the problems that people have is that they don't understand that when they are charged for their electricity, there are smart meters and there are dumb meters. And smart meters have the ability to charge you based on when you are using the power, as opposed to just how much power you're using. And this can be a big advantage for commercial operations where they can schedule their shifts around power use, because typically power in the middle of the night costs about half as much as power during the middle of the day. There's less demand, and so the power companies are trying to sort of influence you to even out the demand, which obviously decreases their infrastructure requirements and peak utilization. And so the second type of air conditioning augmentation that we're going to be dealing with is, I'm going to give you more detail on this one. It involves using cold storage to use certain compounds that will change phase at a temperature very similar to the output from an air conditioner. And so they will literally freeze and melt at around 10 to 20, 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, but store a tremendous amount of heat in that phase transition. And so by using the air conditioner at night, when you don't really need it, to cool off this cold battery bank, think of it as a cold storage unit, and then use the cold storage unit during the day where the electricity becomes twice as expensive. We've done some preliminary tests with this, and it does seem to be working pretty well. And it has the advantage of not requiring any kind of modification to your air conditioning system, to your power delivery system, or any work with a bobcat. So that's why I think that one's going to be an interesting video, but probably a little bit less impressive in terms of the performance gain. So I think you're going to enjoy both of them. I don't know if we're going to get both of them out this summer. The second one, the cold storage unit, is still in the earlier stages of development. We've got part of it back there. I might even bring it around if we want to take a look at it.
Yeah, fair enough. And I just brought this up here. So if any of you guys haven't seen the first AC video, it's right up there. And you should take a look at it. We were surprised at how well it did. And so that's why we decided to do the follow-up video to it.
Another thing that I've found with a lot of our videos is there's the super high-tech, super fancy, almost nobody's going to try to do it, but it's interesting to watch. The laser is a good example of that. Not a lot of people set up fiber lasers as directed energy devices. So it's interesting, but not that useful. And then on the other hand, there's the projects that we do, like, say, making sake or this air conditioner video that I'm going to show you, which are directly applicable to something you can say, oh, okay, I think maybe I'll do that if it works that well. And so we like to mix those two so that you get the idea of, like, wow, what's potentially out there in technology? At the same time, what can I do to improve what I'm doing? And mix and match that so it stays interesting and it gives you an opportunity to kind of decide whether you just want information or you actually want a how-to. So we'll see what happens with the air conditioner video. I think a lot of people are going to like that.
Yeah, I agree. There were a couple questions that seemed somewhat interesting. If you wanted to respond to any of them.
I'd love to.
There's one that I could respond to, and I'm guessing it's referring to me. They said, "How's your finger?" And then someone else said, "How many stitches do you need?" I didn't need any stitches.
Well,
I made a dumb mistake, but
you didn't need them, but the reason that I told everybody that you went in to get the stitches is because we needed a pro to evaluate you to decide
Sure.
whether you needed the stitches. And ultimately, a few stitches didn't hurt. And let me see, where did you cut yourself?
it's on. I almost forgot. This thumb. You guys aren't going to be able to see it.
No, I can't really even see a scar.
I can feel it, though. It's numb. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have any feeling back in that.
Yeah. And the thing is, I could have repaired it myself. I actually have the suture. I know how to do it.
Okay.
But I didn't have any lidocaine. And there was no way he was going to let me within a foot of his finger, in order to be able to do the repair. And so that's why we ultimately decided it would be better to have somebody take a look at it and give a couple of antibiotics. But that was from a lemon.
Yeah,
were
from
attacked by a
cutting
lemon.
Cutting lemons. Yeah, exactly.
Right. My worst injury was the eye, but that wasn't related to this. That was a firework. Stupid firework.
Yeah, that was way worse than the thumb injury. Have you ever responded to like comments about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people.
So they know about it.
Yeah.
Because we never posted like a video about it.
Didn't we do that thing where I almost lost my eye?
Well, that
It was a short, but it explained
wasn't
the
very
scar.
detailed.
Yeah, it was just that there was a firework that, again, we're working with lasers and rocket engines and all the rest of this stuff. And I just approached a firework. It was not 4th of July. We were just messing around. But I approached it, and I thought it was a dud because it had been sitting there for a couple of minutes. So I got close and, looked down to see if I could see anything in some detail. And then it decided to take off. And actually I had a small fracture in the orbital bone right about here. But the repair was done very well, and I don't hardly have a scar other than right here. So those are our most serious injuries, despite high voltage and rockets and toxins and boiling liquids.
Right. We finally got 2 super chats.
What did they say?
I thank you very much for A13 banger. Thank you very much. Love to know from you guys anything to this electrogravitic propulsion stuff that has been in the news more with UAP disclosure efforts. Would love to see an experiment around this. Never seen one before.
I don't know how that would work. There's always this kind of the edgy area of science where people say, the the big companies don't want you to know about this, but you can use this tiny little module and cool off your entire warehouse for pennies, that kind of thing. There is no such thing as free energy. And when you try to interact fields, you can't really interact separate types of fields, gravity fields with electromagnetism. At the very, very highest energy levels, we're talking like, the singularity of a black hole or something. Yeah, gravity and electromagnetism, they may start to approach each other, and there may be interactions that could be detected. But in terms of like our gravitational field on the Earth, which is quite weak, and in terms of the electromagnetic intensity that we can generate with wires or pulses or anything else, there is no interaction. You can't block gravity. You put yourself inside of a high voltage field. You don't get lighter. You don't get heavier. And it's not because you're not clever enough and you're using aluminum instead of copper. It doesn't work like that. That's more like mysticism. So I try to be gentle in sort of correcting people in their dreams or hopes that there might be some sort of secret technology that will allow us to leapfrog where we are right now. But at the same time, there is a lot of potential in the things that are around us all the time that we don't take advantage of. You just like the ceiling fan video that we did. You walk past this kind of stuff all the time, and it's impressive how much can be done if you just bother to relook at something you've stared at, for years and never really appreciated it. And what makes it possible is a basic understanding of the principles of engineering and physics. You don't have to know like equations. You don't have to get real deep into it. But if you have a general sense of like how things work, a few of the basic premises, then when you walk around, you're not sort of just wondering, why does that motor turn when you plug it in? You know how it turns. Then you can start saying, yeah, but it seems like it's turning kind of slow. Now you can begin to evaluate how to improve things because you have that basic understanding.
Yeah, so we had another super chat here, and it was right after that one.
Okay.
So, and I assume he means, have you tried instead
Okay.
of just tried?
Sure.
Have you tried flash graphene with flower pot welding rod? With a flower pot welding rod. I'm guessing that's what
Flower
he's meaning.
pot welding rod. I know that the
And
people
that's,
would take carbon
and
rods.
sorry, that's from Retrovert. Thank you very much.
You might have to just let me guess, because I don't want you to keep super chatting me to correct yourself. I mean, that's not fair. But I know that there are ways that you can use a flower pot. You can fill it with slag or different types of like metal components, and then using a carbon rod, typically used for like arc lamps. They're just carbon, maybe 6-8 millimeter diameter, maybe 30 centimeters long, that you place in there and put a high current through it, and you can melt it. You can literally produce liquid metal through the electric resistance heating of the rod. But flash graphene, the problem with graphene is it's not just heat. There's some subtlety to the way the heat is entering and leaving. The graphene actually forms from the carbon not during the heating operation, but during the cooling operation. Once you heat up the carbon to the point that it's basically a liquid or a vapor, it's then ready for it to re-solidify into whatever form is favorable at that point. Sadly, diamond is not one of those that is the most favorable to form. Graphite and graphene are far more favorable. And so given the right timing, the right cooling rate, you will form graphene preferentially to, say, carbon black, or to other forms of, say, carbon with oxygen like carbon dioxide. So I think you would need better control than you would get in one of these, flower pot smelting machines, because they're so massive, they can't cool very quickly. So odds are, whether that's been in the news or not, or whether anybody's been successful with it, I doubt it. And you'd have to have some pretty good definitive testing afterward to show that, yeah, actually it does work, because I suspect it won't.
Yeah, so since we haven't had any super chats, I'm seeing a lot of people asking about law enforcement getting involved. Yes, we have. And someone just commented, yes, they have one of their videos had law enforcement interaction. I think it was from Jet Engine. a jet engine making too much noise. And yes, we did have that.
Yeah,
Yes.
we did have that. But in terms of any of the other activities that we've done, no, not really, because I think we've been pretty discreet in the way that we handle what we do, and we're relatively safe, as you can tell from a lot of our videos. We do focus on safety, so we haven't had fires. Oh, wait a minute,
Well,
the fire department. The fire department
fire-
here from the smoke. Okay, all right.
So,
yeah.
so actually,
Never
mind.
Never
Never
mind.
mind.
No.
Actually, that's a complete lie.
No, you remember when I asked a couple of months ago for some help with our laser? Because our lasers were hot and powerful enough that they would damage the inside of the building, and we were looking for solutions.
Yeah.
I'll get into that in a bit. I was prepared to talk about that. But the bottom line is, we had done a video here where we wanted to send lasers through the room as if it was sort of a laser show. I don't know if you've ever gone to a bar or some sort of a concert where they do lasers in the background, where you put laser beams through super clear air, you can't see them. And so typically what'll happen whenever you're doing a laser show is you'll get a smoke machine. You'll set it off or turn it on briefly for a little bit before everybody kind of gets ready for the show. So you don't really notice it. It's a little hazy in there, but you don't really notice it. But it's enough so that when the beams then fire, you see these lances of bright red and blue and green beams, and it's beautiful. Well, great big warehouse. We had a mirror ball located on this basketball hoop that sticks out of the back there. You can't
really
see it.
see it, but it's above his head.
It's
there.
above my
Yeah.
head. And the mirror ball allowed us to take a moderately powerful laser. We're talking, a couple hundred milliwatts. We spread it out into a beam that was maybe about 3-4 centimeters in diameter, and then struck the mirror ball with it, and it would flash these beams all over the room. So we couldn't see it very well except on the walls until we added a little bit of smoke. Well, we got so encouraged by the success of the smoke, we just added more and more smoke. Well, lo and behold, it set off some sort of fire alarm, and we ended up having the fire department come
Yep.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just agreeing.
Yeah.
It's like, yep,
Yep.
I know
Yeah,
this
they
story.
came. And when we explained it to them, we were sort of like, we're sorry, didn't want to have to call you out. We didn't know that you guys had even come because there was no internal alarm that went off. So, yeah, we've had that kind of a problem, but no serious problems where like there was public safety involved, we broke any laws, just stupid carelessness on our part with respect to the smoke machine. So, be careful when you're dealing with lasers and smoke, and there's somebody may come by and not notice what's going on, and so they come into your building when you're doing something a little bit risky. That's why we've locked the doors whenever we do any of our videos with the lasers, because we don't want a delivery person to come in. So there's a lot to it. It's an interesting gig. It's fun to do, but there are stories.
Yeah, so another super chat. I don't know how to pronounce your name because it's 89CR500R. But in regards to the thermal paste video, we're
Yeah.
probably not going to do any sort of follow-ups, at least that we don't have planned, unless one of you comes up with like a good idea. But something interesting, though, is with the most recent update to the AC video, he had to use it for an unexpected reason. It worked. Close to that.
Yeah.
But we did use it for a reason that isn't related to related to the regular video. Let me know
So,
if you guys can.
While
still
he's dealing, we're getting
hear
some
me.
weird beeps.
Yeah, it should be good. I
But
think we're good.
the thermal-
But I did want to respond to this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't plan to follow up on that, and that. So if you guys want to come up with some other idea, that's fine. And we still have thermal paste like available, so it's like if there's some experiment that you think that we should do, we can do that. But
Yeah, I think I maxed that one out. We were getting to that point where we were asymptotically approaching, I think, the ultimate. And unless you went to seriously different materials, which would involve a whole new development project, I don't think we could have tweaked it any further. One of the things, though, that I will tell you that we're doing in terms of upcoming videos, we've actually finished it, but we're not filming it because we're working on the air conditioner so hard. I don't know if you remember seeing the sake video a couple of months ago, but one of the issues with a lot of home fermentation, like making mead, sake, wine, was the filtration process. I spent about half of the video discussing agents that can allow you to settle down the particulates so you get a nice clear beverage above that. And it involved adding different chemicals. It involved using time. We even used a centrifuge in order to accelerate the process. The problem with the centrifuge is that it has a capacity of 300 milliliters. And that means that you have to, fill it up dozens of times to finish a batch. So with that in mind, I ended up building a far larger centrifuge that I'm going to be displaying in a couple of weeks that can handle up to 12 liters at the same time. And it's a DIY type project. It uses relatively common materials. There are some issues, and we'll go into it, and I'll explain exactly how to, bypass some of the problems. But that's sitting in the room right behind us. I don't think you can see it on any of the cameras. But it does work, and it's a real effective way of clarifying beverages without having to add other chemicals. Even if they're relatively safe or they're completely safe, you're just not adding anything. So I think that's going to be an interesting video too, because it's one of those that you can approach and relies on basic physics and some mechanical engineering.
Okay, so I get another question here. From Allstrike, a lot of metal 3D printers use expensive powders. Only a few companies try welding wire. When will we get cheap, less than $1,000 solution for consumer use? I don't think we're going to get that anytime soon unless you know something.
Not price-wise. I think the fiber lasers that I've got here, if you saw our Theo welding video, as well as my demonstration here of some of the results, when we show you the material that we're going to use to protect our back wall, I'll fire the laser at a dozen materials to show you kind of what it does. But the fiber lasers are developing very, very quickly. The prices are coming down. The power is going up. The broad availability of these systems is making them expensive but more approachable. A couple $1,000s, and you get a 1,000-watt laser, continuous wave 1,000-watt laser, like a real 1,000 watts, not some sort of, it's pulsed and it's actually producing 1,000 watts for a microsecond. I mean continuous. The fiber laser is what will probably jumpstart any kind of wire feed or more practical feed for 3D metal printing because of its low-cost power, its good absorption in the type of materials that you're going to be using for this purpose. So you get a lot of that 1,000 watts actually melting the metal. And because the beam quality is so good, the beam can be brought down to a diameter much smaller than even the smallest feed wire, giving you a lot of control. So I think it's probably going to be several years, but I think we'll probably see 3D metal printing systems based on non-powder mechanisms like wire within the next 4 years or so. That would be my estimate. And that will also mean that the lasers will become even more powerful and cheaper. And I think that's what's going to make it happen. I'm sure it's going to happen because it's too powerful a technology not to optimize.
Yeah, another super chat. Thank you, Radio. And he said, or he or she said, so no question, just wanted to say thank you for a great many hours of very educational and entertainment. Keep it up. Thank you very much for that.
I like those kinds of super chats. Everybody can super chat like that. That's fine. But you can ask questions too.
I have to, I don't know if I could guess what NOK is for a currency. What, that New Zealand dollar or something?
It's not the US dollar.
That. Yeah, well,
that's another interesting thing.
That is,
we did an analytics comparison.
Yep.
Almost exactly half of our audience is not U.S. based, and it's an interesting thing because we had to
Norwegian. Sorry.
Norwegian.
Sorry.
Okay.
Norwegian.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good. We'll have to ask Lars about that if he knows that.
Yeah.
Lars actually is my brother-in-law, and he is Norwegian, and he's into tech too. He may actually participate in some of our upcoming videos because he's very much into boating and boats and electronics,
yeah.
and he's a programmer, and so he has a lot of the same sort of overlap of skills. It'll be good, and he's taller than I am, so
Oh,
kind of nice.
that's impressive.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's Norwegian.
but he also wanted to start his own channel potentially, so we might have him on here to participate and figure out how YouTube works and everything. We're
Right.
probably not the best people to learn that from, but it's better than no one. So
Yeah. What I was talking about with the analytics is that when we had to select a time for the live stream, we picked a time that we thought was kind of the best of a worse situation, because when you cover the entire globe, it's going to be midnight. Like it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's 5 p.m.
Yeah, right.
What was it, Jimmy Buffett? But the thing is, we figured that at least if half of our audience is in the U.S., it will be relatively common to be able to watch at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, that sort of thing. Europeans, it's going to be the middle of the night, and we're sorry because we know a fair number of our viewers are in Europe, but that's why we picked Saturday, simply because if you stay up late, you got Sunday off. But it was a matter of just minimizing the downside. The other point beside Lars, I blanked. But in any case, it is kind of neat because of the fact that we do have an audience that spans the globe. It does give you a little bit of a different perspective on some of the things that you grew up with that other people haven't. But the technology is global now. It's, as the video that we just did on generating power with flowing water or plug water droplets was developed by a group out of Singapore. And we learned about it only a couple of weeks after they published it. And I heard about this from Sabina. And it was like, we're all over the place. And so other than the timing of the immediacy of this sort of live stream, it means the entire world is plugged into YouTube and the entire world can watch your videos. So this is another reason why we stay away from politics. We want to stay away from truly local information because too many people are just not going to know where you're coming from. They're not going to have the same perspective.
yeah, but we do plan, like, especially on the future live streams, to talk about like current events, as long as they're not political or something like that.
Right.
But otherwise, it's like if there's a flood or something, like, no problem in covering that, and then maybe going over some of the scientific parts of that.
I think one of the interesting things that we've found is, and maybe many of you have found this too, is that I was not an early adopter of AI, of ChatGPT or any of these AI systems. I kind of thought it was a bit of a kind of interesting, but not that important. But then a couple of times we had a problem. Alex used the ChatGPT to find an answer. And this was probably maybe 8 months ago, 7 months ago, not that long ago. And it was very helpful. I really found it fairly useful. So then I started occasionally using the ChatGPT to solve some problems, to look up an answer. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but it is improving and learning very quickly. It went from sort of, yes, I can answer the question, to, hi, what can I do for you today? And it keeps getting to the point where it seems like you're talking to a real human being. It's a little spooky because of the rate at which that improvement is occurring. And it's going to be harder and harder to be able to distinguish what is AI generated and what is real.
Yeah, I agree.
But in a good way, maybe. But it's potentially something we got to watch out for.
Well, and they're all sort of competing with each other, so you have to decide which one is going to be best or what it's best used for. Because there's going to be some AI models that are going to be used, for engineering purposes or just language questions or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. But I had another thing
one?
here.
Okay.
He was a little while ago, but I waited. So the plumber speaks. Thanks for the $10. Thank you. Would you be interested in studying how a specific resonant frequency will reduce amperage draw on AC or DC electrical current? I can send you some samples to experiment with if you want.
What do you mean samples? I'm not sure, like, because you're talking about a principle, like resonance of your system to a line or a line frequency versus a material. But while you're sort of either going to send us the other message or the correction, I do think that that makes sense. One of the things that I'm not sure if you're aware of, but with three-phase motors, one of the advantages of, say, a three-phase motor is you can do speed control by changing the phase relationships, effectively the frequency. And I don't know if you were to just examine the power energy output, put a load on the motor, measure the amount of power it's generating with, say, a cogeneration unit, the motor and the generator, and then analyzing as you change the frequency if the efficiency of that system rises and falls at certain points when you are at the resonant frequency of the system, presuming that the resonance is somewhere within your speed control range. But that would be a fairly easy thing to set up and test before you started to get into, the theoretics. You could do that from an engineering point of view as opposed to a physics point of view. From the physics point of view, it does make some sense because the phase interference could cause, in certain components, could cause them to overheat because they're only leaking or sending their power through for periods of time when otherwise it's being consumed in the component. So I think there is some merit to that. But on the other hand, if you're talking about AC power, you're kind of stuck with, say, 60 hertz or 50 hertz. And so you would have to design your systems to match the power delivery frequency, or you're going to have to get frequency converters, which are going to be expensive, especially for high power, in order to save money or save power on the other side. So, interesting. But I think I would do the three-phase motor or generator experiment to first find out if there's any merit to it.
Yeah, and if you want to email us to see if you want to send us the samples or explain more,
yeah,
that would be totally
Yeah, you don't
fine.
have to super chat us just to tell us,
right.
These are the samples.
And if you send a regular chat, I appreciate it, but I might not see it since we're getting a few. Okay, so another one from Bearded Flannel Man.
How do people come up
names.
with their names? My name is my.
Not making fun, but interesting
I am.
names.
I
Oh, okay.
am.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So he said, and I always assume he because our analytics, it's like 95% male. I know YouTube is skews towards like a male audience, but that's why I'm assuming that all of these super chatters, you guys are.
And if we're wrong,
male.
please forgive us because
Yeah.
we would love to have 50-50. We don't care what the sex of our viewers are, just that you like the program.
Right. So
What does he say?
Bearded Flannel Man said, oh my God. A bogus project idea, generate methane, scrub it of impurities, H2S,
We're doing that every day,
compress for storage, use power gen and cooking. Use it for power generation and cooking. I'm guessing that's what he means.
I don't know. That's
Well, he said bogus project idea, so
Well,
it's just
it's-
like afterthought.
It's
type
an
of thing.
afterthought, but let's give it a minute. You can do HHO generation. We've done that before, where you generate hydrogen and oxygen, and you separate out the hydrogen, you store it, or you burn it directly, and you can actually get commercial units that will produce the hydrogen and the oxygen for small, like jewelry torches, where you want to be able to use it on site without having to have a tank. That has some potential because it's so easy to make from a very common substance, water. The methane would have to be synthesized. I mean, unless you're talking about cow flatulence, that would be a project to gather, if you know what I'm talking about. So I don't think that would be a good source. And then if you were to just rot garbage or, sewage, that sort of thing, the processing would seem to be so nasty that I'm not so sure it would be worth the effort in order to get it for cooking. I mean, why not then in that case just buy a tank of it or just use electric or do the HHO? I think methane would be a step too far. I wouldn't do it.
Okay. And a completely different topic now.
All right.
So from Andy Calloway.
All right.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the pounds. Currency. Have you guys thought of doing any collabs with other YouTubers? I'm thinking of Nile Red, the Thought Emporium, or Emporium, or maybe Applied Science. And yes, we have.
We have. We would love to do that. One of the things that we do intend to do with this live stream, part of the reason we're starting this up again, is because we've gotten big enough and we've gotten enough experience and been following some pretty darn good channels for a while. We've thought that it would be wonderful to hear sort of how did they get started into this. We can give you some of our background, but to hear sort of, you know, what challenges do you have, where you're going with this, why did you do it this way, why didn't you? And I reached out, this is months ago, to Nighthawk and Light, and he said, yeah, he'd be willing to participate. And doing something like that on a live stream or in studios is very easy because nobody has to travel anywhere. But as you can imagine, doing a collaborative video with somebody that's maybe in California and New York or Boston and Houston, these videos take a while to produce. And so as you can imagine, if you're trying to do this collaboration, how do you coordinate the getting together to get it to work? Not just the filming, which would be a single trip, but you'd have to get together and rent a house for a couple of days or weeks while you're working on the project, or separate out the components of the project and hopefully meld them together. So I think it would be possible with somebody who is within driving range of, say, the Boston area, kind of close to where we are, or to do, like I said, live stream interviews. I would love to interview Applied Science, Lee's Lab, Styropyro. We've interacted with him in the past. Nighthawk and Light. There's a lot of other ones. Even some of the food channels would be kind of fun to, like the technology of food, the cooking kind of thing.
And what we would do is like have obviously like some Zoom camera like up here or something like that. And we do it like live stream. It would always be better to have like the person in person.
Oh, sure.
And host them or whatever they want to do. And then also they might want to, collab on a video that they're working on or that we're working on.
Right.
So we can always do it that way.
It's harder, but it would be more fun.
Yeah, right. But the thing is that it is so difficult is like the two major times that we flew out of state to go and try to film. It was so much filming, so much work and effort, and it wasn't really that great. It was a fine video, but most people didn't seem to appreciate it, and it's like
became kind of half a travelogue.
Right. Which most people, if they're looking for the scientific like stuff, it's like they're not interested in that. So.
And I think you'd get most of the value of like the interaction of the personalities and the thought processes in this format. Just screwing together things, probably less actually informative than would simply interacting and finding out how people got to where they were. I'd be fascinated to hear how people like, say, Nighthawk and Light or like Styropyro decided, you know what, I've been doing this for a while. I'm going to film it and I'm going to go on YouTube. And 10 years later, they've got over 1 million subscribers. They did something right, but how did they get from A to B? I think it would be interesting to me, but maybe very informative to some of you who are thinking, yeah, I've got some talent, I've got some skill, and I've always been interested in doing this. Let me share this. How do you do that? How do you get started in this? How do you get to the point where you can do live streams and you can afford to pay for a warehouse? How do you get there? It's not probably a one method. There's probably a whole bunch of ways people have approached this, and it'd be interesting to hear how some of these other successful creators have gotten to where they are, maybe where they plan to go.
Yeah. So I just want to say, since I didn't want to interrupt, Billy, thank you very much for the 20. And I see that you have no question, but feel free to like put a question, even if you think it's like not useful. Do that. And it's good that you're trying to make some of those speakers, and that's actually my interesting thing. people are still watching, like yourself, I'm guessing, like a bunch of those old speaker videos.
Yeah.
That used to do the flat panel speakers, and
Right.
when we actually did the speakers here, it was like literally where this table
Yeah.
is where we did that sound chamber with
Right.
the flat panel speakers.
Right.
It might be an idea to follow up on that at some point because everybody seemed to enjoy that.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but we also decided to use that same technology where you take a small driver, basically what's behind the cone in a typical speaker. You can buy these things from Parts Express, and I think what's the digital
Parts Express is right. But
Parts Express, but I think I'll think of
don't
it
know
in a
where
second. But you can also get them on Amazon or eBay, that sort of thing. They're inexpensive, $5. Putting them on a very low mass surface like the cardboard, styrofoam, balsa wood allows the entire panel to vibrate in a sort of instrumental way, the way a piano soundboard works. So what we did is after we filmed a couple of those videos on how to do this, we actually took a couple of these actuators on string instruments, so a viola, a violin, a cello, and we brought these into the field. We actually went in front of the Capitol in Concord and stood them up on the street and got people's impressions about the music that was produced by these string instruments driven by these actuators. But the sound that was made was not string sound.
Yeah.
It could play a piano, it could play a trumpet, it could make
right.
any kind of sound. The box was designed for a string instrument and was a great sound resonator and worked extremely well with these speakers.
And I thought more people would have liked that because I thought that was like one of the more fun
Yeah,
videos.
there it is
This
in the
one.
middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These instruments play themselves.
Yeah.
It was like a fun video to do and everything. And but 69,000 views. It's like not bad. But I thought people would have found that kind of fun because I did. Even though it was a lot of work and everything and, setting
Mostly
it all
the
up
getting
and
it
moving
out and, remote power and all that kind of thing.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun, and people were impressed by the fact that these instruments didn't sound like they looked. And that, I think, is another thing to think about because I picked up those instruments for a few bucks. I just went and found damaged instruments at a local, used store, and a couple of them on eBay.
Yeah.
So it costs about the same as the styrofoam, but I think they probably sounded the very best of any of the panel-driven type speakers is to imitate it with the string instruments. They're also pretty attractive. It's kind of a sexy look if you were to put that in a game room or something like that, and you've got two big cellos hanging on the back wall, and everybody's like, what the heck is that? And then you start playing some, Metallica.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Okay. So I have a couple more here
Okay.
that are waiting.
This is fun.
Yeah, no, it is. No,
I'm
it is
having
fun.
fun, yeah.
And guys, whenever you're doing the super chat, so that, we really appreciate it. But we'll obviously read yours whenever we get to it. But we're not gonna. I'm not gonna skip one. I'm making sure that we're not gonna skip you. So I think it's Powell Dunsik. I know you're Polish because I know the currency is Polish. So sorry. And I don't really know why you asked this, but have you guys considered protein production?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Okay.
You can
Oh,
work
let's
with
move on.
proteins, but no.
No.
Other than in cooking, it's interesting to look at the denaturing and the coagulation of protein, like say when you're making a smash burger or something like that. There's some interesting physics involved in it, but generating the protein from scratch, no, haven't thought about that.
Yeah. So if you want to clarify, you can always send another message if you want. And then Kason M, what are your thoughts on the probability of using probability of nuclear fusion becoming a widespread method of energy production?
Well, it's interesting. You know how I say I read all the comments, and I do. And I've had a couple of people sort of tongue-in-cheek looking at that video that I did on plasma, how to make plasma and plasma tubes. And I had made the prediction that we were going to see nuclear fusion in 5 years. It was 5 years ago. And yes, they are effectively in a couple of, I think, ITER, which is a,
France, but
yeah,
an
but it's,
initiative between, I think it's like 12 countries. It's like France, China, the U.S.,
yeah.
UK, I'm guessing probably. I don't know, Italy, I think too. I'm not sure which ones,
But it's a
but
magnetic confinement as
yeah.
opposed to, say, an inertial confinement where they take lasers and try to blast these little pellets. This is where you have a huge donut-shaped torus that is filled with deuterium, tritium, and you just squeeze it down with superconducting magnets and then send a whole bunch of current through it or microwaves through it to heat it up. They have broken that sort of threshold of more power came out than went in, but that could be 1 watt and therefore useless. But it is a transition to the fact that we are probably going to be seeing fusion in the next, if I say 5 years, I'll be wrong. It's gone slower than I really expected it to because they've discovered a large number of subtle problems that have been much bigger than they originally anticipated. The biggest problem is the confinement walls that have to undergo all of this fluence of neutrons and X-rays and high temperature particles. They break down very quickly, and when they do, they contaminate the plasma, and then the operation turns out off. And this is at energy levels that just barely equal what you put in. You're trying to pull megawatts or gigawatts out of there. Those walls are just going to evaporate. And so that has proven to be a real problem. They've gotten the magnetic confinement down pretty well, using things like liquid lithium to absorb some of those particles and actually carry away the heat, may be a solution. The walls themselves are generally ceramic or tungsten or heavy metal like molybdenum, but still it's a problem. And the inertial confinement, the big problem with that is the lasers and the periodic nature of the power generation, where you're generating power on the kilohertz frequency or hundreds of hertz frequency. They also have a problem with how do you gather that very hot, very diffuse energy in the form of particles and X-rays into something that can run a steam generator. So I'm a little more pessimistic than I was 5 years ago, and I'm going to say it's probably going to be another 5 or 10 years before we see something that's truly a viable commercial product.
Yeah, and if you want to look up here, and all of you can see this, but it's like, yeah, you can see like how long it took, and I think the estimates were by like 2022 when it was supposed to be done.
Yeah,
But
right.
if you're looking at that, they're not even planning to start experiments until 2034.
Right.
So
Right. I think a big thing that we really should look at the same time is kind of like the fan videos that we've been doing. We need to minimize waste. Phase relationships, like was brought up earlier by one of the super chats. Can we make our electrical grid more efficient? Can we reduce power consumption at the user end, like with our air conditioning projects? This is something that I think is approachable by something less than a national program where you have to build this enormous operation to just make huge amounts of power. What we want to do is balance the two. Decrease demand or make the demand more effective, less wasteful, and then let's also boost the output. And something that we can do and I mean we, like you, me, Alex, and researchers at our level, is to try to look around for areas that can be improved and that can be magnified over millions or billions of users. That's pretty powerful too.
yeah, and there's certain things that I would be able to, help with or do better. So this is a good example because Ben Wilson donated.
Okay.
So he said, I would love to see some of your experiments applied to Bitcoin mining, solar, radiative cooling, power gen, thermal paste, etc., etc. I had an idea for Stirling cycle energy recovery and others. So there's a couple things there, like with the Bitcoin mining and solar, the radiative cooling might apply. But anything that relies on all of those things could sort of apply to Bitcoin mining, because anything that can make a more efficient computer, a cooler computer, and that's why thermal paste would be great for that. Or if you have efficient power production or anything like that,
Well, I think
it's like then you would be able to get cheaper Bitcoin mining, and that what?
Well, what I was going to say is that was what I would have said 5 years ago. Like I would have quoted exactly
Okay.
what you said.
But you
we
wouldn't
have a
now?
new no, we have a new problem, AI, because like
Well,
Bitcoin
okay.
mining, it is a computationally extremely intense process, and there is so much push to increase the capability of AI that it's becoming like more an issue of power consumption than really the technology of or I should say the software. And it's becoming very, very expensive with these large language models. So I would add to that Bitcoin mining, AI, as well as other, power usage requirements that need to be tucked in. We need more efficient chips. We need to process more bits for less watts
Sure,
if we're
but
going to
that's not
develop AI.
yeah, but that's not something that we can do.
No.
It's like all we can do is make the power more efficient and solar, or come up with other ways to generate power.
Right. That's true.
Cheaply.
Well, I
Yeah.
think one of the
Well, and that was sort of the question. He wasn't
Okay.
saying that we should make. We have to start some manufacturing lab to make processing units
Fair
or
enough.
something like that.
Fair
Yeah,
enough. Yeah, I think also there's one of the things that I think is pretty important is the micro hydro, the micro generation, local generation, like with a solar panel, is that a lot of the power is lost in the grid. You have to build power lines, you have to maintain them, you have to send power over thousands of miles. All of that eats up some of the efficiency. So if you have the ability to make, store, use at intelligent time the power that we're already making, I think that is a great key. And I think things like, say, microhydro, solar, local wind, thermal electric, as we're going to get into with the air conditioning system, meaning generating power from thermal, through entropy, from thermal spread, a warm and a cold source, are a way to generate electricity. If that can be done locally, then you reduce the transmission problems, the storage problems, the pollution, the landscape, destruction that has to occur.
Sure.
I think that's actually a big key, because we do have gigawatt power dams. We do have nuclear power plants. We have large coal and natural gas powered power plants. If we add fusion to that, great. It's another tool and can make that less expensive. But we're still going to need to send power out to charge the Teslas. We still need power out to charge the AI systems. And so I think trying to make that more local is where I would focus, because I think I could have an impact on that.
Yeah, I agree, and I really like the idea of hydro. It just seems
Yeah.
like there's a hydro dam near where I live. I'm not going to give the location, but it's on a river, and it's been there for like over 100 years, and it makes about like 14 megawatts.
Right.
And it like never shuts down.
Right.
There's no reliability issues. It barely
Right.
needs any upkeep or anything like that. I kind of like that idea. I get the like the aspect of nuclear, because you can generate such an amazing amount of power, but there is some risk to it. And then also with the hydro, you don't have the pollution problems that some people might be considering and stuff.
One
like
of the
that.
interesting things kind of like that is I heard an interesting
like-
statistic, and I know I'm going to get corrected on this by
Okay,
somebody.
by me?
No, by somebody out there, maybe by you, maybe you've heard this. But apparently,
Make it quick though,
the
because
amount
we have a few.
Okay.
Comments. Yeah.
The amount of energy available that is currently available by current technology in the Earth's crust, the first 10 or 20 kilometers that we can dig down to, if we were to access 1/10 of 1% of that heat differential between that heat and the cool, surface temperatures, we could power the Earth for like more than 1 million years. That's like the orders of magnitude. Well, one of the neat things about geothermal heating and cooling, one of the neat things about it is now with these microwave drilling rigs that they're beginning to market, you can drill much deeper, much faster, much cheaper. And that also is sort of a local thing. You throw down a couple of pipes near a city, there's no landscape destruction. You may generate a few megawatts and you don't have to use any fuel, you don't have to tank in any gas. I think that type of approach to power generation is also pretty interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
I wanted to go fast.
Yeah,
like you
yeah,
told
no
me.
problem. So from all cons, can I have to figure out a better way to view these? But can old world buildings harness energy from the atmosphere with? I'm guessing it's with, not without, but with conductive domes and use of mercury. Plasma Channel says it's possible. ChatGPT says its concept is possible. PE dot coated bricks can store electricity. Your thoughts?
Well, you can store, like I talked about with the thermal battery used for the air conditioner, you can definitely store cool and warm to use it when it's most efficient and potentially even it out so that you don't need to use as much power to cool during the day, warm during the night. Okay, that would save a lot of power. I'm not sure where mercury comes into that. If you're talking about a liquid metal, there are safer eutectic mixtures where you add, I think it's gallium and
Yeah, it is gallium.
zinc. But
It would most likely be gallium.
they're
I'm
liquid
guessing. Yeah.
at room temperature. So if you need a liquid conductor or liquid metal, I would stay away from the mercury. I'm not sure, again, what the dome would do. And I'm not sure why an older building would be any different than a newer building. One possibility is it's more massive. And if you've got a very massive structure, it can store and release a lot of heat. And that could be used as potentially the heat battery using the building itself. That's why in the olden days, in 1925, you go into a big old building like a courthouse or, some sort of big government structure. It was cool, even though it was hot in the city, simply because it was releasing or absorbing some of the heat during the day that it released at night. So large, heavy-duty structures with, say, sand in the walls or mass added to them, that also is a very good idea for storing and retaining heat and cool.
Sure, I was just thinking about it, like what the reason is that you would want to use an old structure, whether it's worse or better insulation, because I would assume it's worse.
Worse insulation.
Yeah, insulation, yeah. But then if it's a better conductor of, like where it's matching the outside temperature more than, because you're saying the reason might be because it's a bigger building, but if it's the same size building,
No,
why
it's
would
more
you want-
massive. Like back in 1920, when they would build a building, it was out of bricks and concrete and stone.
Sure.
And
Yeah, that
nowadays,
makes
it's
sense.
lightweight fiberglass insulation
Right.
between metal panels, and the thermal mass of that building of the
I see
same
what
size
you're saying. So you're
is
not
much
saying
lower.
massive, like not square footage.
No,
You're-
I'm talking literally
Like-
weigh the
Yeah, okay,
building on
okay,
a scale.
I got it.
And that mass can store a lot of energy. That's how we're doing it with the air conditioner system. It's not light. It's compact, but
Yeah,
it's the
okay.
mass you want.
Okay, got it. Okay, and then Ben Foyle hat. Have you looked into attosecond lasers?
Actually, I'm aware of them. I know that they've.
I knew you would say
well-
say almost something like yes.
My background in lasers is very long standing.
Yeah, right.
And femtosecond lasers used to be maybe 10, 15 years ago, sort of laboratory curiosities. We were able to get down into the femtosecond range. And then they found through clever methods of pulse compression, this is mostly optical, you're now out of the materials because almost no relaxation events that would allow you to put energy in and get it out happen in the attosecond range. Even like proteins and other molecules barely change their conformation in that kind of time frame. We're talking really, really, really short time frames. But there's ways to take a laser beam and spread it out spectrally. Even though people think of lasers as a pure color of light, they still have some width to their spectrum. And it's possible to produce a laser that chirps. This is a process where as the laser is developing its energy, its wavelength is shifting a little bit toward the end of the pulse. So it starts a little redder, ends a little bit bluer. We're talking close, but it does change in its wavelength. Past such a laser, to a dispersion system, like say a diffraction grating or a prism. And then what you can do is you can take the part of the laser beam that is shifted bluer, and you can send it a shorter distance. It's at the end of the pulse. So you compress the pulse by moving the red end and the blue end closer in time, because you make them travel a slightly shorter or longer distance. This can be used to pulse compress, and so you can take a femtosecond laser that has a chirp, that wavelength dispersion, and you can overlap it or essentially fold the beam on top of itself and get into the attosecond range. This is used, or why they would care, or why they'd want that, is because you can look at, say, conformation changes in proteins during a chemical reaction. You can actually watch it untwisting, which happens in the attosecond range. There are other processes, even electronic processes in nanoscale chips, that can be analyzed in the attosecond range. So building an attosecond laser, probably not. Compressing pulses into the attosecond range, definitely. It's been done, and it's actually kind of practical.
Okay, so we have a couple more questions here.
Good.
Yeah, I know. I like this. This is fun. But this one, we can't get into the politics, so we're not going to mention anything about that, because we honestly don't care that much. But JEC, he said, thoughts on the Musk Mars plan, Starship, humanoid robots, Starlink, electrification of vehicles. So, and someone else, I think, commented a similar thing after this one, and I will respond to that one.
Okay.
But just something interesting. I know that you watched almost all of the Starship, catches and launches
Following
and everything.
Yeah, love it.
And I have to say, it was super impressive with the Starship launch and everything, and how they were able to improve it so that their Raptor engines stopped failing for whatever leaks they had, and they updated the base so it wasn't throwing concrete back up into the engines.
I have to admit that was actually a pretty dumb idea.
Yeah,
everybody's flawed.
Yeah, right. But then humanoid robots. It's like my brother and I think Eric here has an issue with, not an issue, but a concern, which I kind of agree, where it's
too good.
It's a little sketch.
Yeah. It's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
Combine
especially-
AI with the humanoid robots.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You accept ChatGPT, but then you put that into a moving body.
Right.
It's,
See, ChatGPT, as long as it's telling you what to do,
Not-
is okay. But when it starts doing it for you, whether you want it or not,
Yeah.
it
That
would
could
be
be an issue.
it would be an intimidating foe
Yeah.
to be dealing with humanoid robots that have the capability and the knowledge base of current ChatGPT or current AI. At the rate it's going, what do you think they're going to be able to do in 5 years?
Right.
10 years. I think the SpaceX thing is phenomenal. It's exciting. I think his plans to go to Mars, I think it doesn't really matter, because I think his argument is to make, humanity multiplanetary. Okay, I'll buy that. It's not a negative, but I don't think it is the reason why I'm happy that he's driving in that direction, because I think the spin-offs that we get with the kind of capability that sort of focus gives you is where the real value is. If we can put stuff into orbit at 1/10 of its current cost, the satellite systems that we put up there can be bigger, they can be shorter lived, and so they can be less expensive because we can replace them. And the fact that we can put things up there that we ultimately just couldn't launch until we had a big enough rocket. For example, the James Webb Space Telescope
Right.
overtook Hubble. Hubble was the biggest thing we could sort of launch at the time, and then we discovered better ways to unfold it, and we got a much bigger, I think it's 6.5 meters, telescope up there. Well, what if you could put a 20 or 30 meter telescope up there? What if you could put 5 of them up there, and it didn't cost any more than the original project? That is where I think the low cost to orbit is the key. Keep it cheap, keep it frequent, and now we can start looking at things that were not even approachable before. What about a YouTube channel that sent up their own satellite? Wouldn't that be cool? everyday astronaut actually has his own satellite. I mean, I think that would be
That
an
would be
absolute
cool. Yeah.
blast.
No chance that's gonna happen. Well,
But see, that's the
not
thing.
for us. I mean,
Never
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
but
What?
the fact that it could happen, that fact that we can joke about it, is really exciting to me, and that's why I'm following it. It's also very, very dynamic. You know, they blow something up and they screw up, and 2 months later they fixed it and they're doing something, and then they screw up again and they fix it. It's a lot like the YouTube channels run, like a lot of like what our projects are. It's like it's your best guess, do it. It fails, do it better. It works, post it. Same thing with them. Make it better, launch it. Fails, launch a better one. I like their attitude. And no matter what you think about Elon and his whole thing, put that on the side for a second and just think of Shotwell and the SpaceX program itself. It's exciting. And I think it's going to have competition. That's great too. So I'm excited about them.
And it would definitely increase competition.
Yeah.
And so I got from Awestrike, a question, your thoughts on EV versus gasoline cars. Okay, so very similar to the last one, but I have a Tesla now, and
You bought it before Elon
before all
became-
the Elon stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I don't want to like mention it. And I'm not saying I dislike or like it because of Elon. He's out of the question.
It's a car.
for this. Yeah, it's a car. However, I used to always be a gas car person. I used to have a Mustang, and that fantastic car.
It was a great car.
Yeah, it was a great car. The sound and cute. But I have to say, the only downside is the 20 minutes that you have to take to charge it. Otherwise, it's like pretty much better in every aspect.
Yeah.
Now you might be able to I don't know if you would be able to, but like the not environmental stuff, but the cost and everything of producing like the lithium batteries. Because for example, you got for the Tesla catamaran video,
Right.
You got a used Tesla battery.
Right.
Now it was only one segment of it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you use
They come
one
in
of
little
those.
modules, and you sort of
Right.
add modules. If you got a Cybertruck, you'd have more of them.
Right. So you were able to use that, and like you still have it. But I don't know how long that's going to last, in storage and everything. Versus if you had like a gas motor and you properly maintained it, remove oil, gas, all that sort of stuff,
Right.
and you left it versus the lithium ion battery. I guess that would be the only downside, but otherwise, I think it's great. And you rode in the car.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You think it's like
It's phenomenal. It's again, little AI-ish. It's pretty like you got to be good with computers. But in addition to that, I think the charging cost is less. Like you figured out miles you could drive versus gallons of gas.
It
It's
is
about
less.
a half or something.
Well,
like
it's
that.
definitely less, but then also you have to decide like why you're getting the car. Are you getting it to save
Yeah.
money, or is it for the environment? Because most of the energy, and that applies to all the energy questions that we got, it's like, are you getting it to save money? If so, then yeah, you're going to save money. But if you're trying to save the environment or something like that,
It's a mixed bag.
well, most of the energy is produced from natural gas and coal, and then I don't know what the percentage is, but I think renewables in the U.S. is like something less than 15%.
Yeah, I think
something
it's,
like
you're
that.
in the
It's
range.
low. Yeah. So
The other thing is the lithium batteries themselves. People say, "Oh, yeah, that's going to be an environmental, disposal hazard." I don't know about that because can't they be recycled? I mean, you've got the lithium in your car. You don't have to mine it again. But I don't know the answer for if you brought in an old Tesla with its, batteries are getting kind of aged, and you decided to buy a new car.
Yeah.
What happens to those batteries? Do they end
That's
up being processed very efficiently into new batteries? They extract the lithium, or is that a mess? Or is it sent again, like we've done for too many years? We send it to some poor country where they don't have any kind of environmental controls, and they do some nasty stuff in order to turn it around and make it shiny and put it in another car. I would be concerned that there could be some sinister stuff like that when they talk about the recycling. I don't know how it works.
yeah, right. And it might be like they could recycle them, but it's more expensive to recycle it than to
Throw
have
it away.
more lithium mined.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is interesting. I'll have to look up the channel, and I can do that. Actually, I'll look that up before I mention the chat, just in case.
Okay. Give me something I can answer while you're looking.
Yeah, I can do that. So we got something from Gantix Antics.
I like that one.
Nice. Okay. Hey, thoughts on vacuum airships as lift scales with D3 mass with D2. So maybe a large enough one could work without imploding. Love you guys. Yeah, thank you.
I'm not intrigued by it because I think it also has some risks. When you think about like, oh, hydrogen, it's a terrible explosive and you wouldn't want to use hydrogen even though it's extremely clean. It blows up and it makes a big fireball. But if you had a large-scale Hindenburg-size vacuum chamber and it's docking and for whatever reason, it bumps something a little hard and it implodes, everybody on board will be dead because you get a vacuum explosion like that, you're talking about a lot of released energy. Combine that with the fact that structurally, when you're talking about large volumes in airships, any additional mass to make it thick enough to support that vacuum is lost
Humanity
cargo,
has a few
a payload. So I think it probably is not a viable technology. If we get graphene or carbon nanotubules that make things super duper strong and damage resistant, yeah, it might be doable, but I still think it's not going to be practical. I'd stick with using hydrogen if necessary, and if not, I probably would stay away from the airships themselves. Helium is not an option.
Yeah, so from Elliot, yeah, you're from the channel How to Make Everything. And if that's you, you can definitely send us an email, and we'd be interested in
Sure.
collaboration if you're interested. We don't do sponsorships, though. So if you're thinking that's what you're interested in, we don't really do that just because it sort of takes away from the main part of the video. But if there's something that you actually want to collaborate on, that we're totally fine with that.
Yeah, the sponsorship problem is that obviously a lot of YouTubers have gone to that because YouTube has decreased its remuneration based on views a lot over the last few years. And that's why you probably have noticed this explosion of sponsorships. We've really tried to stay away from that simply because it does distract. It often comes across as disingenuous, like, okay, you're reading it and you don't really use it or you don't really like it, but you want the money. So it has that sort of like downside to it. Plus, it breaks up a flow. So in a video like this, where we're basically kind of ad-libbing and kind of adapting to the questions, yeah, you could probably break it up and say, incidentally, do you drink Perrier or do you drink Pellegrino?
It's our favorite
it's
drink.
our favorite drink. You could do that.
And then you go home and you throw it in the trash.
Right.
It's like,
but you could do that without really screwing up the flow. But if you're doing something with a laser device and you're taking down drones, and then all of a sudden you get a video from some shoe implant because you've got a weird limp or something like that, it destroys the flow. It doesn't feel right, and I'd rather stay away from them. But again, collaborations, I'm all for that. It's always fun.
yeah. And if you ever want to do something like we're hopefully planning, like with Hawk and Light or Nile Red or something, where it's like instead of a collaboration exactly, it's like to join on a live stream type of thing. It's like that's fine too.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like,
we can get into a debate.
Yeah.
Like I said the other day, somebody commented. It's like they were commenting saying Dr. Hassenfelder. That I said she was a bit of a curmudgeon, but she's got a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, yeah, I watch her, and she is a curmudgeon. But she's got a great channel, and I would love to debate people like that. It would be fun not only to have just a sort of video feedback live stream like this, but to have a formal debate. You make your position about, the future of AI or the future of power generation or the future of particle physics, the future of education. I'd love to get into debates because I think that's a great opportunity to kind of push people to their limits and get two points of view, and the viewer can decide, who's got a better answer.
Yeah, there's not many like technical channels or scientific channels that like do debates, like there are some that do live streams, but I don't know about debates. Where they argue with each other.
Usually,
but it's rare.
It's usually a video feed from a conference. Like you'll have a physics conference in Japan.
Oh, okay.
And they will
well,
have debates between different professors or departments or something
sure,
like that.
but
They'll
you're
film it and then
but
they'll
you're
put
not
it up.
talking about like YouTubers
No.
talking to each other.
No,
Yeah,
I'm saying,
okay.
but could you find any? Yeah, you can, but in that weird
Sure.
format.
Yeah. Okay. All right, another one.
Yeah.
And this is not really something for you to answer. But Savage, if you want to email it to us, that might be a good way. Or if you want to, probably email is going to be the best way. But he said, "Hey guys, I have some advanced designs for Tesla pumps and turbines that are 3D printable. I'd love to send the files over to you so you can test them out." We would definitely appreciate that. But
Yeah.
I would say email it and then just like maybe put in the subject your comment or something like that, so it's easy for us to find. And please, nobody else try to take his place, because I don't want to have to search through 50 fake emails and then one real from him. So, but I do appreciate that.
He's the
But
3D printer, so if you've got something that is importable to the program that you have and you can print it out, yeah, I'd be interested in looking at that. It's actually a very clever design. He was a smart guy.
Thanks. Okay, extreme. I can't. I'm not sure if YouTube. Extreme bathroom break. So this guy, he donated 50.
That's his name, Extreme Bathroom
No,
Break?
no, I'm being
Oh.
PC about it.
Okay.
Because I don't know YouTube's rules and everything. So, but thank you for the 50. We do really appreciate that. But it's like, actually, you might want to change your name to that.
Gets a lot of attention.
Yeah,
Maybe
right.
not the kind you want, though.
Yeah. No, his is worse. It's not
Just
bad.
move
but
on.
It's not bad, but okay. I'm really grateful you decided to go into YouTube entertainment with your wealth of knowledge. I'm curious why you wouldn't have went into university education to teach.
Good question. And actually, I've addressed this once before, but it was sort of buried. I don't know if you guys are aware, but I'm a retired physician, an MD, and I've been doing it for 30 years. And originally, when I went to college, I was looking at going into fundamental research and teaching at a university, and specifically in physical chemistry. If you're not aware of it, it's not like organic chemistry where you're making compounds like pharmacologic compounds and basically carbon-based compounds, but it's more like a deep dive into the electric structure of atoms and how they interact. And one of the bigger professors at the university that I went to was in a catalysis lab where they would fabricate catalysts that were used.
I'm laughing at the comments. No,
Okay.
Continue.
I'm immune to that.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was interesting because in order to get a good position, get a graduate position and move on in that educational form, you wanted to get good references. And so I went to the professor of the catalysis lab and said, would there be any way for me to do volunteer work or get involved in any kind of projects here that potentially would lead me down the line? And he was very happy to have somebody help, but I'm obviously a college student, so I didn't know much. But what I was good with is I had pretty good arms, and so they had me grinding up the powders that were going to be used, the silica gel, that would be turned into the substrate for the rhodium or the platinum catalyst that they were investigating at the time. And so in order to do this, I had to do it obviously after hours, and it was a Saturday evening. This is when I had my epiphany. And it was a Saturday evening, and it's probably 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, and I'm at my little desk where I had all of my classifier screens and my microscope and my big mortar and pestle, and I was grinding and crushing sand. And on the desk along with me was a bunch of these old, I don't know if you remember ARA, but they were the distributors of these automatic coffee machines back in the day when I was at the university. And so you'd get a really lousy cup of very high caffeine coffee, and when you're tired, it was a good pick-me-up. Well, I had a bunch of these cups that had been sitting on the desk for a couple of weeks, so they're all brown and hard inside and everything. So it was a pretty unpleasant and place to work. But the point was, at the same time that I was grinding these crystals, my roommate, some of our friends, my future wife had gone down into Chicago in order to go to a restaurant, and they were going to go to a bar, and they were going to go dancing, and so they were going to have fun, and Eric was up there grinding his crystals. And then I hear this funny sound in the hallway outside of the laboratory, and it was this sort of sliding sound. And it was this guy. He was in, I think he was from either Dubai. No, I think he was from India. But he had on the classic flood pants, that go about 8 inches above the ground, black socks, and sandals on. And he was walking down the hallway, kind of schlepping down, hunched over, looking pretty sad, and carrying another one of these cups of coffee. And at that point, I went, no, I love the science. I love the machinery, but I don't only love machinery. I want human contact. And so even though I didn't make the decision at that point, it was like, no, I think I need to look at something a little different than the basic research. It's just too dry, too cold. And that's when I talked to my future wife, talked to some of my friends, and we decided, yeah, you probably better match to something like the physical sciences or the human sciences. And that's when I decided to change and went pre-med. And I enjoyed being a doctor. It was a lot of fun, and I did a lot of laser work and was involved in laser surgery, owned a company that provided lasers for a lot of outpatient clinics. And I've been doing hobbies all along, but I practiced medicine, and then at the time of COVID, the decision was, do we shut down for a year or two and then go back as soon as the hospital reopens? And I decided to retire at that point. And then we went full bore in the channel, and I spend all my time now applying what I had learned early on and what I had learned during the 30 years of doing hobby projects. So it's good. I really enjoy what I'm doing now. I enjoyed what I did before. So that's how I got into this. And Alex has always been good with the computers, and it was sort of a marriage made in heaven, where he handles a lot of the editing work and a lot of the topic selection and follow-up, and I do the sort of investigative work to build the projects. So,
yeah, okay, yeah, and I've heard that story. And if you've seen the previous live streams, which probably most of you haven't, he has told that story before. But since we're going to be doing live streams again, he probably won't. Well, I'm guessing you're not going to really tell that entire story every single time.
No, so I'm not going to bore you more than twice.
No, I'm not saying it's. I'm not saying it's boring.
Right.
No. But I'm just thinking, you have to follow the channel for a while, or else it does get redundant. If every time you join the live stream, every question is answered the same way.
So I'll refer you back to this answer.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. And then we got another one from Alcons again. Now, this one, I don't know how you're going to answer this, but can you explore Nikola Tesla's flying vehicle design, where his space drive concept can theoretically travel at hypersonic speeds?
No. I think I have a vague memory that what you're saying is valid. Like, I think I've heard that. But insight into it, or I probably know much less about it than you do.
Yeah, well, he's asking if you can explore it. In the future, it's like maybe, yeah.
I'll do a little bit of research. Yeah. I'll look into it. Tesla was interesting in that, some brilliant people are also a little bit nutty, and they can come up with ideas that ultimately don't work or don't make sense or impractical. But you kind of put those on the side because some of the ideas they came up with were brilliant. And I think that's true of a lot of researchers. And so I won't say, oh, yeah, he was a nut. No, he wasn't a nut. He was brilliant, and he had
a
broad range of ideas.
Yeah, it's sort of like Da Vinci and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. So we just got another one just like 2 seconds ago.
Okay, keep them coming.
Yeah. Well,
I'm enjoying the answers.
Don't ask me to keep them coming.
Keep them coming.
I'm reading them.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew, very much. Any thoughts on revisiting those acoustic panels? Okay. Yeah, we sort of talked about that previously in the stream. You probably weren't up here. But any thoughts on revisiting those acoustic panels for active noise cancellation at room scale, i.e., for reducing noise outside of the space the panels are centered around?
That's actually a brilliant question. I think somebody had asked me something like this in the comment section, and I gave an abbreviated answer. But yeah, one of the problems with noise is that it is called noise because it's sloppy, it's messy. It's not like you have a laser beam and you got a little tiny aperture and the beam is coming out of it, you know where it's going. Noise is bouncing off of surfaces, differentially reflected from those surfaces and absorbed from those surfaces. And so what's hitting you is sound pressure. That's what sound is. It's basically just pressure waves moving your eardrum. But it's coming from all different angles and at different frequencies and in different phase relationships. And so one of the things that we found when we built a noise cancellation system, I actually did that in a previous video. We built a simple box. It was probably about yay big, and placed around the box some of these drivers in order to do the active noise cancellation. And it was a very simple electronic circuit because each driver had a microphone that was placed just outside of the box. So it was outside where you want it quiet, and it would then detect what kind of sound pressure was coming from that one of the 6 sides of the box and striking it, because the microphone would detect that noise. It would detect at least a somewhat spatially identified noise. And then it would feed back through a circuit that could phase delay it so that you could then take the noise that was coming out and you could place a signal, an amplified signal, to the driver inside to reduce the output from that noise sampling. And because of the controlled environment of the box, it was possible for you to be able to reduce what went through that wall with that driver detected by that speaker. So you had 6 circuits, and it worked. It was successful. Doing such a thing in, say, a big room like this, where you want to put up these sound reduction panels, not just absorption like you might have on the ceiling of a drop ceiling, but something that actually actively reduced the sound, would follow basically the same principle. You'd have to detect the sound there where the panel is, and then feed back the anti-sound counter sound from that panel. I think that actually would work. You might have to divide it down to fairly small sampling areas, but if you could mass produce them, if you made it a very easy thing to do, you could put them in the ceiling of a drop ceiling building. That would be a very easy way to do this, because you've already got the panels. They're already subdivided. They're inexpensive. And so that might be something to investigate. I might actually look into that, because we've got drop ceilings around here. A lot of people do in office spaces. Build 20 or 30 of these things, fill up a room, and see if you can turn down the noise by simply turning up the amp. I think that could be a lot of fun. It's a good idea.
Yeah, I agree. And that was a fun video when we did it in the past. So another one from Alcons. And I realized that it's Singapore dollars, which is interesting. So cool. I don't know if you're in Singapore or not, but welcome. Can you teach us how to make a geopolymer as close to granite as possible, similar to your video where you used epoxy and mixed other materials?
Yeah, that would be sort of trivial if we just mixed in fillers. You know, you can make epoxy and you can mix in a whole bunch of fillers and use epoxy as the binder. The problem with any of those sort of organically bound materials is obviously you're introducing something that doesn't last as long as those materials and is going to have far different structural properties. Obviously impact properties, drying out properties, exposure to UV light properties. Really what you want is you want a geopolymer that could be, you want to create a granite or a concrete that's using inorganics. Concrete itself is actually a pretty interesting material. And it has been, I don't think it's been explored as much as it should be, because I do think that there are ways. We did some testing, and actually we didn't make a video about that, about making super high performance concrete with the addition of other types of materials, like, for example, graphene.
I remember filming some of that, but we never ended up finishing it because there
Yeah.
were some. I don't remember the issues, but I saw it on the hard drive because we have so many. And that's another thing, guys. It's like there's certain videos that he does and that I film and edit and everything like that that don't end up going up because the final product wasn't what we expected or it didn't work out. So, for example, is one of them is the concrete mix. I forgot exactly what
Yeah.
we named it, but I remember I still actually have the video files.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's like it's still there, but for whatever reason, something went wrong and you weren't.
I think
able
what
to
it was
finish
is
it.
my bright ideas were not so bright. And so what I was doing is I was modifying typical concrete to try to make it much tougher, much less resistant to fracture. And what I added made it stronger, but it actually made it more brittle. And so what I was doing is I was just sort of playing around and not ending up with something you would necessarily ever want to use, as opposed to just the plain concrete. But I do think that that technology would be very useful because concrete is such a widely used material that if you could improve it just a little bit, keep the cost the same, but improve the performance of the material, even just a couple of percent, that could represent billions of dollars when building structures. But it has to really work. It has to be something you can do. And when you start getting into weird exotics, like I said with the graphene, it's not practical at this point. It's got to be something that you can do inexpensively. So, yeah, I would consider it. We obviously did do it, but it didn't work the way we wanted it to.
Yeah, right. Well, we don't have anything more right now besides regular chats and everything.
Okay,
But I
let's
was
look at those.
just thinking if you wanted to take a break for a second, I was thinking if you guys are interested, and if you're interested, I might try putting up a poll to see if Saturdays are the best for everybody.
Yeah, actually, that would be useful. Saturdays and the timing, because we're pretty much open. Do you want to do it on Friday or Sunday instead?
Right, right.
Saturday was our best guess, but it may not actually be the best. The one argument that we had for the Saturday was that with our intention to now release our project videos on Saturday mornings, when they're ready, we're not going to rush them. We're not going to do anything different other than instead of that Thursday, we're going to release them on the Saturday morning. To have the live stream following that would allow everybody to say, oh, I watched this new video and I got all these questions in my mind, and there's a live stream tonight. We're always going to have a live stream after those videos. That, I think, is a big advantage, but there may be reasons why people are still pushing for another day. So
Sure.
I'd like that result.
Yeah. And it's the first time that I'm doing a poll, and we'll do polls in the future, but this is a, good, easy way to test it.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
So, all right. Is Saturday the best day for our live? Yes, no? Let's start it. See if it works. All right. Yeah, so if you guys see the poll there, you should be able to submit yes or no.
And I would like some feedback. You don't have to do this with super chats. You can just put it in the chats. But I would also be interested if people have suggestions for potential interviews or debates. Who would you like us to talk to? Who would you like us to debate with? Many of the names will probably be familiar with us, but we may have missed a couple, and that would be useful.
Yeah, it's just we get a lot, so it's hard to, that's why I was using the super chats. And again, we do appreciate that because, like, with YouTube and its ad stuff and everything, that's always a difficulty. But now that we don't have any super chats, so far it seems it's like 99% yes, 98% yes for the poll.
Okay, well, so far so good.
Yeah. So we'll see. Ashton Forbes. Not sure if we'd be able to get him, but Nighthawk. Okay, we're getting Nighthawk. A couple of people here I don't recognize. And actually, I'll make it easy for you. Would you be able to read that?
Oh, yeah, I can read those. Yep. Yeah, Hyperspace. Actually, I've started watching a few of his videos. He's pretty good. Covers a lot of the kind of things that I'm interested in, too, and he does a good job. It's well done. If you
Smarter
haven't
of it.
seen Hyperspace Pirate, I would go and take a look at his channel. I think you'd like it.
I would love Destin from Smarter Every Day. Like that
Yeah.
would be great.
Yeah.
But I think he's probably too busy, and his content ranges so much that I'm not sure it would be as easy as someone like Nighthawk or Nile Red. But
Right.
it's possible.
Right.
And always we can do the the live stream chat thing and everything.
Right.
Don't have to get in person. So
Right, exactly. And plus, we don't necessarily have to be talking about our own videos. We could talk about fusion energy with styropyro. It's like we could talk not necessarily about our individual channels,
Yeah.
but it would also be good to get insight into people's background if they're willing to, feedback. It'd be interesting to find out, like, where they're going from here.
what about Electro Boom? I used to watch him.
I used
but-
to watch him. He was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was the one where everything went wrong, wasn't it?
Oh
Where,
yeah,
like,
yeah. He would always electric
himself.
himself.
Yeah,
That's
right.
why it's Electro Boom. Yeah,
Yeah, right,
No,
exactly.
he was always
He was
funny.
cute, yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about? And this is an interesting one because I don't know about this one. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, he's a bit controversial.
Yeah, right.
And the thing is, it'd be like if I had a chance to interview or debate with Elon Musk, I would definitely do it. Even if everybody hates him or everybody loves him, it'd be an interesting interview. And I think the same thing with Neil deGrasse Tyson. It's like he's a bit of a controversial person, but he's not stupid. He's smart. He's pretty interesting. He's got a decent sense of humor. I would like to talk to people like that because you don't always have to agree with people. Sometimes the best interviews are when you don't agree with them. So, yeah, I would definitely do it. But I don't know if they would be willing to do
Right,
something
right.
with a smaller channel like us or, people they have never followed.
I think they
before.
would. Well, we're not that small anymore. I always think of that as like, oh, it's like we got 20,000 or something.
Yeah, right.
Like it's always been that way, where we think of ourselves as like sort of, it's like the small time person. It's like you can't team up, with any of these big creators or anything.
All right,
like
well,
that.
then
It's not
contact
possible.
Elon. Tell him you got one of his
Oh,
cars.
okay. Oh, right. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, he definitely would do it, I'm sure.
I'm not saying Elon, but obviously I'll. But yeah, okay. So that's pretty much it. We're getting still 96% yes for the poll. So
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it wasn't
That's
sort of a
good.
blow up because those arguments that we made, we struggled with this and we kind of came up with the answer on Saturday night. So I'm glad it's not like everybody's, oh no, you missed the most important point. So, and the plan is we're going to do this, like I said, every Saturday at the same time,
Yep.
Eastern time. So I'm not going to prolong it, but I think the next time we do the live stream, what we'll do is we'll come in here with a couple of demonstrations, a few things I want to show you. Like, for example, some of the samples that we had tested in the laser. It might be interesting to show you that. And some of the interesting things that we're going to do that have nothing to do with how to protect the wall, but what can 3,000 watts of laser energy do to things that you work with every day? So I think that might be kind of interesting to see.
yeah, I agree.
I can bring some of those, and we can give you a few views of, like, for example, we might bring the centrifuge in the back, and we can kind of show you some of that. I'll show you the air conditioner system.
Did you mention the centrifuge?
Yeah, I brought it up when I was talking about the mead and the sake, and I
okay,
said,
okay.
one of the projects that we're involved in.
Because I'm busy with this, so I didn't know if that you were giving something away that you shouldn't have.
No. I did mention the centrifuge. So yeah, I think
Yeah, that
that'll
was an
be
effort,
fun.
yeah.
And so, any more questions? Because I'm not in any hurry. We're just going to go to dinner after this. And
Yeah, we got $2 from JEC. Would be cool if you did a collab with Cody's lab.
yeah,
That rhymes.
yeah. Especially
but-
with the mining stuff. Like he's always, mining. And
Yeah.
where does he live? Is it like Nevada,
thought it
Texas,
was-
Arizona, California?
I
'Cause
could
it
be
seems-
wrong because I
seems
thought it was
dry.
Michigan, unless that's Nighthawk and Light or Nile Red or something.
Yeah, I think Cody is like he either owned a gold mine or he owned an old mine or
Unless he
something. at one
moved.
point. Maybe
Yeah,
he
I
moved.
don't know.
We'd have to investigate that. Yeah, but Cody would be an interesting one. He's somebody we followed for a long time. It is an interesting community because it sort of evolves over time, and you all know of each other peripherally. But I think it would be nice to kind of tie together. Just like if you watch political videos or you watch cooking videos or something, they're constantly cross-referencing to somebody else's clever idea or bad mistake or something like that. I think that should happen more in this community because as important as politics is and sports and finance, technology is right up there because it's how we use our money and, it's how we, maintain health and all of the other things in our world. So
Sure, but that's true. But also, that sort of market is saturated.
Yeah.
It's like if you want to watch political discussions, debates, anything like that.
right now you can
you've
turn
got
on 6 of them.
Yeah, live right now.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
But technical channels or science or
Right.
health or anything, you wouldn't be able to.
Right. So I think that is an opportunity. And if we can sort of jumpstart that and maybe, make it so that it's an easy way to get this going, then maybe more people will do it, or maybe we'll all interact and maybe we'll all, decide to go to Las Vegas together or something like that.
I would always that would be a fun thing that also tech or science channels haven't ever done, but is like an in-person sort of not
Get together?
conference, but get together, or like you come up with some sort of idea or demonstration, like one of the projects in the videos, and instead of doing it on camera, you do it on a stage or in front of a bunch of people, and they get to actually see how you put it together in person, get to mess with
Show
it
you what you did
themselves.
wrong.
It's like you'll point out and like pull
Yeah.
you aside.
You
and
know
say,
they would.
No. Yeah, right. Yeah, of course they would. We got another one though.
Okay.
So from sometimes these names, guys. Okay, so
How about just
Iman-
the name George?
Yeah, Joe, George Smith, something
Jane,
like that.
yeah.
Imantanium. I know I butchered it. Your channel is very educational in the most practical sense. You've touched a lot of tech, showing them DIY. Is there a possibility to show them how to get oxygen from the air and liquefy it?
Sure. Actually, very simple answer. You can separate oxygen from water. You can cool air down. That's what they're doing at SpaceX. They're actually building their own air processing plant to make the nitrogen and the oxygen on site to minimize the trucking in. Hyperspace Pirate actually has done a lot of cooling videos with air conditioning systems where he's beefed them up and put them in series, and he's made liquid nitrogen. He's made liquid methane. He's got a good video series on that. So if you're interested in it, I'd leave that to him because he's already, light years ahead of where we would be. We'd have to start from scratch.
Okay. Another question. And sadly, no, we don't, and I'm not sure if we would do that. It's not a bad idea, but it does add a lot, and there's no safety risk. But so from Sam J, thanks for the 20. That's big, thank you. But do you guys have a PO box where we can send you cool stuff? Thanks for making great videos, by the way. The PO box thing though it's not. I wouldn't say it's a hassle, but it's a risk and a hassle at the same time, where if the post office that we use, if it's a smaller one, it's going to get, bogged down, and they're going to be upset with us. And then also it sort of gives locations away and everything like that. So it's like, as much as we would appreciate that, unless we can figure out like a better way to like receive packages. So if you guys want to send us, experiments, or do like, maybe that could be something like to be able to open up packages from you guys like on the stream. So if you guys send like, some interesting scientific thing or whatever it is, we could always open it up on the stream. But we would have to figure out how to receive it in the best way. So
in addition,
I would
it's like
say probably
99% of the people I think that sent us packages would send us legitimate packages containing the
not.
projects.
99, yes.
The
Yeah,
1% is the problem because obviously you're exposing us, the post office, the postal carrier, and anybody in this, complex to those few badniks that might want to think that it's cute to send us something not so nice.
Yeah, right.
So that's probably not the best way. I think because if you have a project, the email allowing us to sort of know what's going on, much of the time we may be able to simply source the material necessary for that good idea. We don't necessarily need the hardware, if that makes sense. And if that really becomes necessary to need the hardware, well, what the heck? If we communicate enough and you've got a good idea and you're relatively local, we'll do a video with you. You can do it. We have no problem bringing in people like with Chris. I mean, that's something I should mention too.
Oh, yeah.
We bring in collaborators. We've had very good relationships with Miters at MIT, and he was able to help us with the directed energy device a few months ago. He's moved on. He's looking for a long-term career, not just to be a YouTube collaborator. But there are other people that we can bring in for other kinds of collaborations, and they could be people in the audience that may have done something or be doing something that's very interesting. We're perfectly open to collaborations. It doesn't just have to be with other major YouTube creators. So let's start with the email. If the communications evolve and we get to the point that we want to get together, let's see how that goes.
Yeah, and chatting is always best first. Like, start with a comment or a chat or something like that. And then if either he or I see it, then we'll look at the email, because we also get a bunch of spam emails from people that want sponsorships to, sponsor some, I don't know, credit card case or something like that. We get a billion of those. So we're not going to always be checking the email. But if we see your comment, then we know who you are, and then if you email us, it's like, that's way easier. So I would probably do it that way. And then if you want to send us something, we can reach out that way. But Chris, who he was talking about, is the guy in this video, this drone killer one. Probably should have said on a live. But in that video, you can see what he was able to do. And that's just one of those people. Yeah, it's like he didn't have a big YouTube channel or anything like that. And he just he got in contact with you, right? And
Not quite. I got in contact with Miters because I was looking for somebody with, robotic skills.
But then he sort of he was the one there that was willing to work
and
with
got
you.
linked to us. And the reason the collaborations make so much sense is I'm pretty competent in the things that I do, but there are so many things that I don't do and don't know. And Alex can't fill in that gap because, like the robotics, we'd have to spend a ton of time just trying to get halfway to the level of a guy like Chris, who was just facile with this stuff and was able to get our system up and running. And so collaborations with people that have different strengths means that he could never have produced this video because he doesn't have the background with the lasers or have the facilities to do this. And we could never have done it without his robotic skills. If we were to collaborate with people that have those well-matched skill sets, we could do videos that were far more sophisticated than we can do ourselves. And that's why collaborations are so interesting to us. So anybody who can help us with that kind of thing, absolutely. We'd be 100% willing to do that. There is the location issue. There is the fact that, there's going to be some time frame involved, but it'll work. We can make it work.
Okay, so two more.
Okay.
So we keep getting them. So
Yeah,
thanks, guys. Yeah, no, seriously. And it keeps the live stream going. So as long as you keep doing that, it's like we're fine with staying here until.
Yeah, I'm in no
Well,
hurry.
I wouldn't stay here till midnight, but stay here for a long time.
What is the longest YouTube thing that Rogan has ever done? Has he gone like to 4 hours? I'm trying to think.
Way longer.
Who's done the longest ones? I mean,
There is one, but I don't know how long. It's like 9 hours. 10 hours. I don't know.
We're not going to
I
do this
don't
for
wanna,
9 hours.
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. You're right. But I'm in no hurry. This is fun.
Oh, there's actually more than I
Okay.
thought there was. Okay, I'm gonna get to all of you, and that's why I'm using also, by the way, because I'm sort of new to this live stream setup and
He'll
everything.
get much better.
So yeah, hopefully. So what I'm doing is I have both of these going. So I don't think I'm gonna miss any of you guys. I don't think I will. So let me go to the last one. Okay, so Plain Smart. Could you make a directed EMP project?
Well, we sort of did.
Well, with the microwave
With the
and stuff,
microwave, except that
but-
we didn't pulse it. But that would be relatively trivial, using either a gyrotron, which is not that much different than a magnetron like we used from the microwave ovens. They can be pulsed. They do have, surprisingly, a little bit of a warm-up period. It's not very long, but it means that if you were to try to put an enormous amount of power through them, you could produce peak powers that were substantially higher than the continuous wave powers without melting them. And so the microwave device that we had demonstrated, rather than just feeding it with 230 volt continuous wave AC, it could be fed with a much larger pulse, and I'm not sure how far we could push that. But that would be probably a very effective way of increasing the range, which is already a lot longer than we demonstrated inside the building, to make the microwave device a better anti-drone system. Lasers obviously can be pulsed, but I think continuous wave makes more sense with most of the directed energy systems out there, simply because they can produce damage continuously, and you generally can't get enough power out of them to completely blow something out of the sky with a single pulse. Microwave, absolutely.
Okay, our next one from Will. Thank you, Will. You said that we just missed out on open source. Maybe next year, question mark. I didn't know this existed, but supposedly there's an annual convention focused on science, technology, and engineering and mathematics held in San Francisco. That could be a cool thing.
Yeah.
If we could get like a booth or something like that, and
I would just go as a guest. It'd be fun to hang around there.
Well, I get that, but you would probably want a booth if there were plenty of people that were going there to meet you, so you're not wandering around the streets trying to find.
I mean, I would
the
go
person.
as a guest, but I think it'd be 10 times better to go as a presenter guest, collaborator, whatever.
Oh yeah, and I'm looking here at and jury rig everything is there. Here, let me show this.
Thank you for the insight. I didn't know about this.
Yeah, I didn't know about this either.
Yeah.
Electro Boom is there. Jury rig everything. Smarter Every Day is there. I don't know how many of these people that you know, but I knew of those three.
Oh yeah.
How to Basic.
Yep.
Styropyro.
Yeah, we definitely should go.
Nile Red.
Yep.
It's like all the people at Cody's lab.
Basically, everybody that we brought up.
Yeah, and that all of you guys brought up.
Except us.
Yeah.
Why weren't we invited?
Yeah, they should have.
Never mind.
Choice words.
Yeah, right.
No, it's like we probably were and didn't see it.
Or
no,
maybe
I'm
we
guessing.
Definitely were not.
Yeah, on purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, they don't want you blowing something up.
Ben is there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay, so that very good. Thank you, Will.
Yeah,
That's
very
important, yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah. Let me go to the next one. Okay. Bavarian Normie. Thank you. What would be the most energy efficient way of building a lamp that recreates the sun's entire spectrum at sea level, at the equator, from IR to UV?
Well, if you're willing to use filters to fine tune the white balance, I think probably just a hot source would probably be the best. Either a plasma-based source. The surface of the sun, I think, is at about 5,500 Kelvin. So almost anything is going to be molten, but maybe liquid tungsten would not. So I think probably a thermal source with fine-tuning the output with filters or diffraction gratings would probably be the most practical method of doing it. Supercontinuum lasers, which produce a very broad band of many frequencies, could be filtered out as well, and may give you a little bit more control over the spectrum. You're not just limited to a black body. But the sun is a black body. It's a hot object. So it seems like the most obvious way to approach it is less high-tech and more sort of tweak it after the fact.
Yeah, okay. And Jacob, you didn't comment on anything, but thanks for the $10. In the future, you just ask anything or at least say something, because we do appreciate that. All right, and we have one more here.
Okay.
Okay. From Voltaire. Release these as a podcast on the platforms. Clip the interest bits to separate clips channels. Okay, I sort of understand what you're saying. So I'm guessing you mean something like Twitch, where you clip it type of thing. I, d- I thought of doing something like Twitch or creating like a separate channel, like just for these live stream like bits. But I probably wouldn't do that unless like this gets very popular and we're used to it before we're adding additional, things to it. Even though that would probably help us, it's like I'm still doing all of this and figuring it out. So I'll look into that in the future. But that is a good recommendation. I do appreciate that because
Yeah.
I thought about that and I should do that at some point. All right, that's it for right now. So
All
that's
right.
all I got.
Any
right now.
last questions? Because it's been about 2 hours, and I think that's a good, reasonable time frame that'll keep everybody interested. If there's no, significant questions, we'll probably close it down in about 5 minutes or so. So if you have any last minute things to cover, one other update I will give you is that we're going to have to find somebody to replace Chris. He didn't leave us smarter. He just left the hardware. And we're going to need a robotics person. We'll probably be dealing with miters to see if they can recommend somebody, but that'll allow us to move forward on the much upgraded laser system. We've got about, 40 drones all ready to be destroyed.
And by the way,
system.
they're not like expensive DJI drones. Don't think we have.
Thanks
that
for the
much.
super chats.
Yeah, the super chats are not pay. They're really cheap. Amazon like $20 drones and stuff.
Right, but
like
we got
that.
a lot of them.
Yeah.
And the system itself is going to require that kind of robotic skill. So we're going to be looking for somebody to help us out with that project. And on Monday, day after tomorrow, we're going to be outside in the wild environment by our building.
At the barn, yeah.
Doing the air conditioner video. And so I think that's going to be interesting. It'll be included in the video. But we're kind of getting ready for that, getting our work gloves and our shovels and plenty of beer. So we'll be ready for that.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to post something from that video because there's multiple segments to it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to post something from that to Patreon before it comes out so you guys can, get some early access stuff.
There's a lot of stuff you've been recording, like
Yeah,
multiple-
but it's not a full video yet. So I'll see if there's something that I can make that you guys then can look at and get an idea of what he's talking about,
Right.
before it actually goes
Would you
out.
actually do the exploding centrifuge bottle?
Oh, I could do that.
That one's good
Yeah,
too.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
I
hang
could
on
do
one
that,
second.
too.
Let me just show you something.
Yeah. While he's getting that thing, I saw that someone asked about the email. I think if you go to our channel, and since I'm signed in here, it's a little bit difficult. But I think if you go to our channel homepage, you should be able to see our email address up at the top. But if you can't, it's just techingredients@gmail.com. So that should be easy enough for you guys to be able to figure that out. And then, well, before you go on to that,
Okay.
Another thank you. I wish I could see the full names. That's see with this being
Learning.
it's the first thing, and that's why I have two computers. PlaneSmart 75001. Yeah, thanks for the 10. Seriously, thank you very much. It does really help, especially with YouTube doing what it does. And then another one. Okay, I'll ask that after you describe what you're talking about, so you don't forget.
So you see this smart water bottle, and this was the best one. Basically, for the centrifuge to be operating, we need centrifuge bottles. And typically, these are 50 milliliter little containers that you'll place your samples in your laboratory. But we needed something big. And the quantity or the capacity of this is 1 liter. And this is great because it's sterile. It's obviously got drinkable water in it. So if you want to put a beverage in here or something that you're going to want to process, you don't have to worry about cleaning it out. It's relatively inexpensive. But the interesting thing about the centrifuge is that with a bottle this tall spinning around, as you can imagine, if this thing is going around in a circle, The heavier components are going to want to go toward the bottom because the bottom is at the bottom of the G-force. The G's are pushing it down this way. The result is that over this 30 centimeter distance, as you start going up in G's, you actually start to go up in pressure. The bottom of the bottle is experiencing right now about 1/30th. Yeah, what if 30 feet? Yeah, 15. Yeah, every 30 feet, every 10 meters. Yeah. So basically, 1/30th of an atmosphere of pressure is existing in the bottom of this bottle that doesn't exist under 1G gravitational field. But when you go up to a couple of hundred Gs, you're talking about 10 or 20 atmospheres of pressure trying to explode the bottom of the bottle. This is actually the limitation to the centrifuge. So what we had to determine is, just like with water bottle rockets, how much pressure can this thing take before it bursts? The last thing you want to do is burst a bottle in your centrifuge as it's moving around at, 100 meters a second or something like that. So we set up a test stand where we inflated these bottles with various amounts of pressure to determine where they would bust and even reinforce them. And we made a lot of noise. Talk about a firecracker. These things really went off, and we'll show you some of those videos that we did outside back at the other shop where we blew up these bottles. They're surprisingly strong. You'd be impressed where we found the limit. So we can push this pretty hard without the risk of it busting. So that's just one of the things that we're going to be showing you in the next week or so.
Yeah, okay. Just so you know, I saw that like it's buffering for some people. I don't know why it's doing that. Hopefully you guys can still see us. But for whatever reason, it was buffering a bit. We're still here, but we'll be going shortly. Hopefully. Yeah, no, it's not that they're Canadian. Now, there's some other. A lot of people were saying that there were buffering issues, so I'll be able to figure that out for the next stream. So I'll answer this next question. Hopefully, you guys can still hear us.
Well, let's
actually, if you guys can if you can put a 1 in the chat if you can still see us, or don't put anything because obviously you wouldn't be able to comment that. So put a 1 in the chat if you can see us, and it's working.
Yeah, the internet looks good. I don't know why it's buffering.
Well, it says it's low, and it's dropping some frames. I don't know why, though. And the bit rate keeps changing. I don't know why it's doing that.
It's probably one of those guys on that screen up there that's, found out we're doing a live stream.
Actually, that's not a bad idea to just close out. It's not necessary, but...
Any luck?
No, nothing. I'm still getting comments, but I think it's very delayed.
If you can hear me, we have excellent internet
Yeah,
here.
no, it's very delayed. You can say
typically doesn't do that, but
yeah, well, it was working fine for 2 hours.
Yeah, so
2 hours and 11 minutes. Oh, I'm seeing ones.
Okay, all right, good.
Okay.
You can hear us.
There are some people saying it's cutting out though too. So I think it's just very delayed and there's some buffering. So at least it's there. It's just, I think it's very delayed.
We'll look into that.
Oh, yeah, and now it's saying it's good.
Okay.
I don't know. It's something with OBS. I'm not used to it. Okay, great.
Very good.
Okay, so let me bring up the... Oh, everybody's saying 1. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, so it's working now for some reason.
Any last questions?
Yeah, I have one more here.
Oh, okay, good.
So from Andrew, thank you, Andrew, for the 10. Ever consider investigating / covering alternate forms of actuation besides electric motors? For instance, twisted fishing lines as artificial muscles.
I've never considered it. I'm aware of it. I've watched videos about it and, artificial muscles, basically. It's complex. I forgot. There is some sort of protozoa that actually has a completely rotating tail. Like for some reason, it's able.
Okay.
It's not like your arm can only go so far. It
Okay.
can just keep rotating, and
Okay.
that's how it actually screws itself through the water. So there are ways to do that, but I'm not sure electromechanically if it's actually very efficient. It might be, but it might also be scale efficient. Like it could also be the fact that it only works when you're at the nanometer level or the micron level. But it's something worth looking at. I'll briefly look into it and see if it looks like there's something promising that might be usable for a project that we're involved in. I don't think we're going to fly drones with it, but it might be something that would be useful in sort of AI-based actuation, where you just want to move something a little bit like this. It might be a more efficient, quieter, cooler method of making those kinds of motions rather than everything through gears and belts and pulleys. I agree. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we haven't gotten anything new yet. So I would say that we'll probably end in a minute or two. So yeah, if you want to drop another chat or something like that, we can obviously
Yeah, we don't want
respond
to
to that.
bore people, but at the
Yeah.
same time, we don't want to shut you off if you're just getting into it.
But I do think this was a pretty good first stream.
Yeah, not bad. You did good.
Thank you. Yeah, even though finally, of course, we were getting close to ending, and it's like now everything cuts out. But everybody was complaining. I think it's a YouTube issue, and other people were saying no, now it's good. It's like, yeah,
Probably COVID related.
well, sure. But so now it says that the connection is good, and there's
Okay.
no more dropped frames because I saw
Good.
someone bring up. If you
Like a
you
frozen
wouldn't
frame?
know this. No, if you right click on YouTube,
Yeah.
you can press on Stats for Nerds, and so I just
Oh.
did that, and you can look at all these like whether you're getting dropped frames or anything like that. It's just an interesting thing that you probably didn't know about.
I didn't.
But anyway, so he said that he wasn't getting any.
Okay.
But on this end, I was. So
Good.
whatever. But yeah, so I thought it was a fairly successful
Yeah.
stream, and I liked all the questions. Those were,
Yeah,
fun to
excellent. So
talk
if
about.
you are watching and you do want, maybe we ignored your question or you want to get, more information about something, you look up a little bit of information. I'll look up a little bit of information. Next time we get together, we can cover some of those things early on, and then maybe we can dig deeper into a couple of the projects where we can talk about things like the concrete that we didn't do, or some
Sure,
things
sure.
that, like, would say, the microwave device. I'm actually going to test that pulsed method, just see what happens. I might blow something up, but, that's worth videoing too. So thanks a lot for watching. Really appreciated having you here. It's a kick for us, and it's a great opportunity to get a little bit better.
Yeah, and we will stick with this for the next live stream. So just check us out next Saturday. We'll be live there. You might get a video before that. You might not. But you might also get something on Patreon. So if you want to see like a little short of something exploding, you might be able to look on there. Yeah, might be able to look on there and see something before our next stream.
Okay, very good. Well, take care, everybody. Appreciate your joining us tonight, and you have a good rest of your evening.
Yeah, thanks.